I was just trying to enjoy my brand new bike. You know, the kind with the sleek frame, the subtle hum of the motor that feels like a gentle breeze pushing you forward. I've been saving for months, cutting corners, reading every review, watching YouTube videos late into night. I didn't just want transportation. I wanted the thrill of gliding down the street, the little freedom in an otherwise tedious suburban routine. Finally, I'd brought it home, unloaded it from the back of my car, and that new bike smell was still lingering when I spotted her. Karen. She wasn't in her usual spot, glaring at the cracks in the sidewalk or yelling at some random neighbor. No, today she was across the street, halfway down her driveway, arms on her hips, staring at me like I'd personally offended the suburban gods. I hadn't even turned the pedals yet, and already I felt the tension. "Must be nice," she called out, voice thick with that patented Karen judgment. I turned, trying to stay calm, but she was already marching over, that determined stride that always meant she was about to make everything about her. "You know, you really shouldn't be riding that thing around here," she said, narrowing her eyes, like I'd violated some invisible neighborhood code just by existing with modern technology. I blinked. "What are you talking about?" "That thing," she said, pointing at my bike as if it were illegal. "It's against HOA guidelines." Of course. How could I have forgotten? The HOA card. I could feel my pulse spike, a mix of excitement for the bike and frustration at her audacity. "It's not against any guidelines," I said, keeping my voice level. "It's just a bike with a motor. Totally legal." Her smile was tight, the kind that savors a victory that hasn't happened yet. "You better check again," she said, and I swear she winked like this was some twisted game. I didn't have the energy. My heart was still racing from just seeing the bike, and now she was making it her personal mission to ruin it. The standoff lasted only a few seconds, but felt like hours. Then, like she flipped a switch, her tone softened. "Maybe you should get me one too," she added, eyes glinting with smug satisfaction. I froze. "Wait, what?" My brain stalled, trying to process if I'd actually heard her. "Excuse me?" I said, blinking, hoping she'd clarify. But she just tilted her head, that ridiculous smile spreading, like she just offered me a gift I couldn't refuse. "You heard me," she said. "I've been thinking about getting one of these. And a bike, for my health. You wouldn't mind, right?" I stood there dumbfounded. Was she seriously asking me to buy her one? Casually, like this was a normal neighborly chat over coffee. I tried to reason. "I don't think you really need one," I said, trying to defuse the tension. "They're expensive, require maintenance, and, oh, I know how to ride a bike," she interrupted, cutting me off with a tone that could slice glass. "I've been riding since I was a kid, just haven't had the chance lately because," she gestured vaguely at the street, "life gets in the way. But life's short, live a little." I realized then this wasn't about health. It wasn't rational. This was about control, about finding a reason to complain, to assert dominance. "But, Karen," I said, leaning against the shiny frame, "I just got this. It's not like I'm running a bike rental business here." She narrowed her eyes again, that familiar glare returning. "Well," she said slowly, like she was savoring each word, "maybe you should think of it as one. You're already breaking the HOA rules with your motorized bike. Makes sense to share the wealth." My jaw clenched. Threat or demand? I tried again, sharper now. "So, let me get this straight. You want me to buy you a bike because what? You can't afford one yourself." Karen didn't flinch. Instead, her smile widened. "You could call it a community investment," she said, tilting her head. "You have something nice, so the neighborhood benefits." I stared, dumbfounded, trying to process this. Then I heard it, her phone vibrating in her hand, like she was already drafting complaint to the HOA. I knew instantly that if I didn't cave, this was about to get much worse. Karen stood there, eyes fixed on me, self-satisfied, like she'd already won before the battle even began. I wanted to laugh, but the tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. This wasn't just about bikes anymore. It had become a battle for control. She flicked at her phone, eyes flitting toward me as she typed something, and I felt that familiar pit in my stomach. The one that twists when you know trouble is coming but can't stop it. You know, Karen said, voice suddenly saccharine, I'm just trying to keep the neighborhood nice. We wouldn't want anyone speeding down the street on motorized bikes, right? I opened my mouth, but she cut me off before a word could escape. And I'm sure the HOA would love to hear about how you're flaunting that thing. She waved dismissively at my bike like it was a piece of trash, unworthy of her attention. I'm just looking out for the community, she added, her tone dripping with faux concern. I stood there, staring, trying to process how a simple moment of joy had transformed into a potential neighborhood disaster. Are you serious right now? I asked, voice trembling between frustration and disbelief. You're going to report me over this? Because I bought a bike. Karen raised her eyebrows in that insufferable, self-satisfied way, as if she'd been expecting my outrage all along. Of course I'm serious, she said, mock pleasant, like she'd been appointed the superhero of our cul-de-sac. This is a community issue. Rules exist for a reason, and if you break them, I have to step in. It's my job, after all. I tried to stay calm. You're not a cop, Karen. You're just a neighbor. Exactly, she said, smiling as if she'd won some invisible argument. A neighbor who cares. Something you seem to forget. I shook my head in disgust. The nerve. There she was, playing victim while all I wanted was to ride my bike in peace. Typical Karen. You're seriously going to weaponize the HOA over something this petty? I said, my voice ice cold. Her smile grew, that familiar, triumphant glint creeping into her eyes. Oh, I'm not making it petty. You are. But don't worry. The HOA will see things my way. My stomach nodded. She was already plotting, imagining the letter, the fine, maybe even forcing me to give up the bike. Let's see how this plays out, okay? She added cheerfully, as if she was already picturing my defeat. Then her tone shifted, sly and manipulative. But, if you did end up getting me one of those bikes, I might just forget all about this. Maybe even put in a good word with the HOA. My chest sank. She was blackmailing me. Plain and simple. I turned to walk away, desperate to escape this insane conversation. Karen called after me, if you got me one, you might just save yourself a lot of trouble. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just walked, mind racing, heart hammering. What could I even do? That night, sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smug face, that eerie glint as she schemed to drop her HOA bomb on me. I tried telling myself it would be fine, that the HOA had people with actual lives, that they weren't just waiting to pounce. But Karen was relentless. When it came to wielding her so-called authority, she didn't need a reason to make life miserable. The next morning, I opened the front door to retrieve the paper, and there it was, a thick envelope from the HOA, practically screaming, "We've heard from your neighbor." My stomach sank. I didn't even need to open it to know who had struck. Karen had followed through. I sat down on the front step, wind rustling the envelope as I tore it open. Dear homeowner. It began, the stiff, formal tone doing nothing to soften the blow. We have received a complaint regarding the operation of a motorized bicycle on your property. The words hit like a punch to the gut, making me feel like I've been accused of some grave, unspeakable offense. The letter felt criminal. It went on, listing every obscure HOA rule about noise, safety, and motorized vehicles. Legal jargon piled on top of legal jargon, making it feel less like owning a bike and more like committing a felony. I skimmed through, heart racing. It wasn't about the bike anymore. It was about Karen, pulling all the strings, turning my harmless purchase into some neighborhood scandal. She probably had the whole cul-de-sac convinced she was a judge, jury, and executioner. I was about to retreat inside when that unmistakable voice cut through the morning quiet. "Hey, I saw you got the letter," Karen called across the street. That syrupy, fake sweet tone she wielded like a weapon. I didn't even need to look. Her arms were folded, smug grin in place. I forced myself to meet her gaze, holding the letter in my hand. "Thanks for this," I said, voice tight. She didn't flinch. Instead, she sauntered over, slow and deliberate, like she was taking a victory lap. "Oh, I'm sure it'll all work out. The HOA has so many rules. you know? Important for everyone to follow them. She tilted her head, grin widening. I'm sure it won't be a problem if you just take care of it. I stared, trying to breathe through the boiling frustration in my chest. You didn't have to do this, I muttered. I was minding my own business. But you couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? She raised an eyebrow as if my indignation were incomprehensible. I'm just helping, dear. The HOA loves when people follow the rules. Right. I muttered, crumpling the letter in my hand. I guess the next thing you'll want is my firstborn. Her smile didn't waver. Funny, but you'll see soon enough. You'll do the right thing, I'm sure. As she turned and walked back to her house, I realized this wasn't about a bike anymore. It was a battle of wills, and I had no idea how far she'd push. The letter still in hand, I froze as her phone buzzed again. She wasn't done. I spent the rest of the day simmering. The letter was one thing. I could fight that, but her phone? That was a direct line to my anxiety. If I answered, she'd have me in her sights again. Ignore it, and she'd use it against me. Give in, and I'd be letting her walk all over me. Either way, I was trapped. By late afternoon, inevitability won. My phone rang. Karen. I hesitated, but couldn't avoid it forever. Hello, I said, trying to stay calm. Oh, thank God, she cooed, practically dripping with sweetness. I was worried you weren't going to take my advice. My teeth ground together. What advice? I asked. She let out a little sigh, as if I was the difficult one. Well, about getting me my bike. You wouldn't want to make this a bigger issue, would you? I'm sure you've read the letter. I cut her off. Yes, I've read it. But that doesn't mean I'm buying you a bike. I'm not your personal shopping service. Sweetie, it's not about shopping. It's about community, she said, almost condescendingly. You want to be a good neighbor, right? I'm willing to let this all go, but only if you do a little favor. A simple gesture. We can move past this, and I'll tell the HOA you were just confused. That should clear things up. My stomach sank. Ultimatum. Classic Karen. Do what you wanted, or live in HOA hell. Karen, are you seriously blackmailing me? I asked. Blackmail? Oh, don't be dramatic, she replied, feigning innocence. Just a small favor in exchange for helping you out. No big deal. I could hear the smug smile in her voice. It made me want to scream, but I had to keep my cool. I'm not buying you anything, I said, voice steely. And I'm not living in fear of HOA over every little thing. You're overstepping. Her tone shifted slightly, mask slipping for a moment. Well, we'll see what the HOA says about that. Don't want this dragging on, do we? I was about to snap back when a neighbor walked by, and Karen's voice dropped to a whisper. Just remember, this doesn't have to be difficult. You know what you need to do. And then she hung up. I stood there, phone still pressed in my ear, staring at the sidewalk like the cracks could give me a plan. The fight was getting ugly, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could play it cool. The next few days were a blur of frustration. Karen had made her move, and I felt her lurking in every shadow, waiting to strike again. I tried to shake it off, reminding myself the HOA could be reasoned with. I made calls, explained my side, and yet I could feel Karen's shadow over everything. On Saturday, I finally snapped. Out on the front porch, I saw her pacing like a mastermind, phone glued to her ear. I marched over, determination in every step. Karen, I called. She looked up, that fake sweet smile creeping back on her face. Oh, hello, she chirped. How's it going? Sort out the HOA issue. I took a deep breath. I did. They've never heard of a rule against the bikes. Your little power play didn't work. Her smile faltered briefly, then returned, tone light. Well, that's good, then. Glad you're cooperating with the community. I stepped closer. It's time to accept that I'm not buying you a bike. I won't do any favors, and I don't care what anyone thinks. She blinked, uncertainty flashing for the first time. What are you saying? I met her gaze firmly. Stay out of my business. The HOA isn't your tool. I'm done playing your game. No bike. No interference. Got it. She took a step back, face contorted with anger. You think this is over? You'll regret this. She spat, sharp but nervous. I looked her dead in the eyes. It's over. You lost. I turned and walked back to my door. She muttered under her breath. But I didn't care. The following days were quiet. No HOA letters, no lurking Karen. Relief washed over me. I was free. And the best part? I rode my bike again, guilt-free. All I wanted was a little peace, some quiet, and a bike ride. Instead, it had become a battle of wills with a Karen who thought she could control the neighborhood. She couldn't. I had my freedom back, and the bike was mine again. If this story resonated, hit that like button. Standing up to injustice begins by taking a stand. Subscribe to Karen's Hub to see more stories of ordinary people fighting back and winning. And drop a comment. How would you have handled it if you were me?